Consolidated Commission on Utilities. It's a work session for Guam Power Authority. For the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Chalco, Commissioner Santos, and Commissioner Martinez. Commissioner Sanchez is excused. And John, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, for next week's meeting, we have three resolutions for the commissioners' consideration. And I'll go through that now, and then we have one issues for discussion.
Okay.
Okay, so first one is GPA Resolution 2023-14. And again, this is to authorize us to petition, after your approval, to petition the PUC for approval to enter into contract for the management, operation, and maintenance of the Guam Power Authority fuel oil storage tank. This fuel oil storage tank has been was constructed in 1975, so it is about 48 years old. And as you recall, we have been putting a lot of money into them to rehabilitate them and prepare them for the ultra-low sulfur diesel storage for use at the Okudu power plant. Since the very beginning, we've always had a performance management contractor to handle that, because of course it's a high-risk area and it's something that has to be, really, we have to make sure that we prevent oil spills, make sure deliveries of fuel are in time, and all of that. Very critical to our operation. So again, it's usually a 5-year contract, typically a 3-year base, and then a 1-year option. And that is the case. We did, the current contract expires on September 30 this year. And so we did go out for bid, and we had 2 bidders, Supreme Group Guam Limited and IP&E bid, no? IP&E, I believe, is the current contractor, no? And so the lowest bid came in by Supreme for a total cost of about $2.728321 million for the 3-year base contract. And the again, if you look at the in your resolution, there is a breakdown of the cost, and if you, for the first 3 years, IP&E coming in with 4.449 million, and this group coming in with 2.728 million. When I look at the pricing of the annual cost, it's not out of it's not really low compared to, it's typical. We've always been around the $800,000-900,000 per year range. So therefore, I believe that their proposal for 2.728 is a reasonable amount, and actually is 40% lower than the next bid. So again, this includes everything from insurance for spills, taking care, having a spill recovery team ready at all times, and of course making sure that the facility is operated and maintained and upgraded as necessary. Upgrading being requiring us to getting our approval for recapitalization. So that's the first resolution, Mr. Chair, and I'm open to questions.
Any questions?
Who are these guys, Joe?
I don't have the. They're typically. I don't have the listing, but
Somebody better
they're.
know who's fronting these guys.
They're
I've never
typically.
heard of these guys.
They're typically groups that have done work in the past. I don't have this particular
Anybody can
group,
get that?
and I can get it to
These guys
you.
are?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we need to know that by
It's not a-
Tuesday.
It's not
Yeah.
a small.
we can get you to you by Tuesday. Yeah. I don't have that information.
I'd like to also know any work experience that they've done stuff like this?
On Guam
I
or?
think I've seen their sticker on over by the airport. I think they do work for the airport. They're local, yeah. They do the airport
Tanks.
fuel management, I think.
And again, as part of the bill review process and recommendation, that's all done by the team, no? They have to satisfy that requirement. So I'll bring it together.
Just update it for
Yeah,
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Okay. Any other questions? It's a big difference, you know.
Yeah.
40%.
40% less,
Yeah.
you know. Good for us. We just need to make sure that they deliver.
Yeah, and like I said,
That's all.
the range is what we have seen in the past. No? The next item is FY 2023, that's 15. And I guess this is to authorize the increase in the amount of award for the physical security proof of concept. I do have Melvin here and Mr. Gutierrez. And again, what we're trying to do is design and get a proof of concept done I mean, we have over 100 some locations, no? And maybe 200 some assets or more from GPA and GWA to have physical asset. It's just like cybersecurity. We have to make, and so part of it is really determining what to design out there and determine what equipment we're going to use to monitor all of these sites. No? So as you have done, we approved the initial PO for this, for the initial contract to design. And then we went through and add out the build-up phase, which is to add the locations to do the proof of concept, which is to install different types of monitoring equipment. And now there's a revised build-up cost of about 350,000, no, to address some of the things that they're putting in. And in addition to that, an extension of the completion date to July of this year. So once this is all completed, then we will be able to prepare and go out for the bigger picture, which is to address all the sites. And again, this is not only GPA, this has also been working on the GWA assets because we have concurrent assets in the location. Again, next, we'll just go through some of the key, about 70 to 100,000. These are the type of equipment that are being looked at. You know, video, cast light, motion detection, infrared, various different things that's important for making sure that we not only have physical security but also communications that are strong to those facilities. No? Next. Again, the total cost will be eventually 1.846 with your approval of the 500,000, the 350,000. They are testing for locations of these sites, so eventually someone's going to have to monitor this. This will be brought into a control center, no, to monitor the facilities. We haven't decided yet whether that's us, but most likely we would like to contract that out to somebody to monitor, no. But again, you're going to have to be monitoring sites, right?
No, but John,
Yeah.
I see fourth floor. We have a fourth floor? The roof? Oh,
Yeah. There is an area up in the,
really?
yeah. You have to walk up though.
You have to walk up the stairs?
Yeah, yeah.
No elevator?
No.
Okay.
Again, detection system next. Video surveillance next. Again, not only at the those stations, but also we have to put some on in the substations. We're gonna have to put them on poles, no, because there's no buildings and some are there. Again, next. Lighting system. What is a cast lighting system?
Cast lighting system is it's integrated into the intrusion detection. It comes in at a lower lumen throughout the duration. There be activity, it's a shake on the fence, something that trips a motion sensor or a pressure sensor, it'll illuminate, and this CCTV cameras will pan to zoom to that.
Adequate
All
lighting.
of these come in the alarms and alerts. Not something that you have to constantly monitor, so it's all tied into this integrated system.
Infrared sensors, body temperatures. Next. And again, network setups, different integration. Next.
Any questions, Commissioners?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner Chalco.
So, JB, you're not electrifying any fences? You seem like you have the ability to do that.
The answer,
That'll take care of the snakes too, right?
the answer is
Started a
no.
conference and that was brought up.
I did electrify one guy wire before in going to Tangisan. I don't know if I recall. And we electrified it at 120 volts, and the snake just laughed at us. So we had to go to 240 volts, and that's when that was when Tangisan power plant was always tripping because of that one guy wire.
Yes.
But we do have a report in the GM report to give you an idea of the amount of outages that we have.
I still think 120 will work for the Saki snakes.
Yeah, I know, right? Because it's still 120. Yeah. Anyway, no. The answer is no. Yeah, not at this point. Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Santos, you have a question?
You brought up the question, and I'm glad Melvin is here, but what's the advantage of outsourcing this, other than personnel? The surveillance side.
Actually, Ken, I think Ken did analytics.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we initially did analytics a couple of years ago. I'm sorry. A couple of years ago, we did analytics to include what it would cost for everything from benefits, retirement.
Yeah.
It was similar at that time. Now that we had the increase with the pay for performance, the strategic play plan, we need to relook at it and re-bring up the numbers. But at the time, it was almost identical.
Yeah.
So it was a matter of, if it's the same pricing to outsource this to a contractor, which is built into our current security guard contracted services, we have it as an option. Should we need it, we can stand them up and utilize them to augment the security operations center, as opposed to bringing in somebody 24 hours looking at shifts and relief watches and what have you. But we'll redo the numbers with the new
And we haven't decided on that scenario yet, because we're not going to put in all this investment and not make sure that it is carefully watched and consistent, no, and all of that. So, but it's and again, this is what we need to. Then we can do the 200 some, and of course we'll work with you on the budget, no.
You know, go ahead.
How is PWA getting integrated? Because I want to say we're in charge, but we're kind of like in charge of all the generators that sit in those facilities. So how are we incorporating that particular infrastructure?
This initial proposal for the design included waterworks, 4 sites for waterworks, treatment plant.
I know it's in there, I saw that, yeah.
So this included the designs out for communications using our Tier 2 and fiber optic network to come back. So this will also include video surveillance systems, ACS systems, log systems, and things like that. So GWA is taking a different route. They have the designs, and they're going to RFP it out to a contractor to get the designs done. Whereas for this, we had a design and build out option. So we're taking that build out option at the moment, yeah. But Waterworks is actually actively using our Tier 2 network, which is used for communication to substations. They're using some of our fiber coming into the building for their SCADA packs already, for their siren monitoring. And so they'll still continue using that.
And that's the only level of integration that we're doing when we're one and the same company?
As far as security, I think they do have their security plan, and I'll let Ken discuss that.
Yeah, so the recommendation and the design right now is for a comprehensive one centralized alarm station, basically the SOC. Whether they choose to do so, because we've been in communication with them, and they're looking at it because they have the 24-hour operations right now. They're looking at putting the alarm systems there. But it's built upon the same type of technology and the design. All the technologies that are putting in based on their design, which they're going to now RFP to build out. It's just a matter of sending the communications here if they want to do it on their own. But the intent is to have one centralized.
The intent.
The intent. That is the recommendation based on the vendor. Only because
Our
they're
current vendor.
Our current vendor.
So is our current vendor at least talking to them in some?
Yes, they are.
I only had one question, John. Seriously though, I thought GPA was going to be replacing their cyclone wire fencing around their substations with concrete walls. Is that still a plan? No, you did that by Kmart, for example.
Yeah, we're going to do that, but
Okay.
this is not part. I don't think this is part of that. That was a separate.
That's a separate item. But you did you're still continuing that program, right, of upgrading your substations? To put,
I don't know whether we have any in our bid this year.
Maybe
but,
not now, but what
yeah.
I'm saying is it's
Yeah.
still part of the
The
general
plan is
plan?
to put, to put concrete and all of this,
Yeah. I mean,
concrete fence.
I've noticed when I watch the national media
Yes.
that they talk about the weaknesses of the substations, people can shoot in
Yep.
to the chain link fences.
you're
So-
Right,
correct.
sir, if I may, yeah, so notwithstanding it's not a part of the POC in terms of the technology we're putting in, we are looking at it as a comprehensive security plan. So working with facilities, they are intending to put it, and it's gonna be tiered out. We're gonna start with
Your
Harmon,
biggest.
Harmon substation,
Sure.
the most critical,
Yeah.
and moving forward, it'll be phased recommendations going forward. But yes, we are looking at that.
I noticed, for example, that when GWA put in the Aga Santa Rita treatment plant and they made Buzzard Gardens pump station, they developed the sewer line across the Cross Island Road and they put up like pump stations. I went to see one of the pump stations in Woodward Hills and it had concrete wall around them. And I was talking to one of their guys and they said, we prefer the chain link fence. I said, why? I said, the wind blows the snow, because sometimes their facilities have an odor to it. He says, so when you keep the concrete wall up, it kind of blocks the wind. They said to me, we really like the chain link fence. I said, yeah, but we need security. Anyway, just an interesting observation. Okay, thank you. No, this is important. We need physical security. I remember when we had your group come in with an assessment of our cybersecurity. One of the comments that stuck in my brain was they said, yeah, but your physical security is really bad. It sucks. So, got to work on that. I'm glad to see we're working on it. And Commissioner Santos, we should ask GWA on Tuesday night.
But at what point are we ever gonna lock this building down in terms of access? Yeah, I mean, I'm just still surprised at the level of entry into this place, because
Yeah,
in
no,
most places,
definitely.
you can't walk in. You should be able to walk past the
Right.
bathroom.
We recently had an assessment, we needed to do an assessment of the building of the ACS system because it's an old legacy system. Not only was we don't have the capability of locking all the doors, it was tripping out every time we have a little glitch. We had to reset the system on breakers and whatnot. Come to find out, we have an old legacy system when the building was built. We've just completed the assessment, I want to say last month. We're waiting on the final design. That's going to be a comprehensive lockdown from a kiosk station with potentially even virtual turnstiles, if you will. So they're going to give us options, but it will be locked down from a secured, not only an asset level, but also from executive suites, depending upon the location.
Wait, Fortec owns the building, right? Or I'm sorry, who owns the security system there?
I believe it was put in place with
Building?
Rim Architect.
Fortec is
Yeah.
Yeah, we own everything.
but
Yeah.
the security there.
The design.
So we put it in and then recently. That was there. Maintenance, they're the voters built the elevator, so we're gonna ask. Of course, apparently do work now, whether they're activated or not. The first floor, stairwell, at least we can. The elevator yet. We hired. Probably have to redo that.
Okay. John, the last one is a joint resolution, so we heard from GWA already. Do you want to put in your 2 cents on your last resolution?
John, okay?
This is on the banking, yeah. John?
This is for Bank of Guam. different banks have different requirements. However, for Bank of Guam, they would prefer to have a separate checking accounts or deposit accounts if we accept money from cannabis industry. So based on that information, we decided to do a joint resolution.
Yeah. So we heard about this and we're fine with it, unless you have something else you want to add.
No, that's be all.
Okay. John?
Next one,
Your report.
Mr. Chair, is the CTP. That's it for the resolutions. The other one
Yes.
is on the CTP market transition strategy.
Okay.
Royce? Or, and again, I'll just just go through a little history. In 2006, we had legislation introduced and passed, for to address the authorities' inability to attract and retain skilled workers. 2007, the market study was completed.
What page are you on?
No, that's not it, Joyce.
This is not in board book.
Yeah,
It
no,
is?
no. This is out of the press.
is?
CTP, transition strategy?
Yeah.
Okay, what
It's,
page?
it's on page 160.
Where?
On page, other discussion, page 160.
I was moving up to 160.
Yeah, other discussion, tab 4.
Again, we did a market study in 2007. GPA was below the 5th percentile at that time. In 27, we did another market update of salaries. Again, at that point, it was saying we were not competitive, and we're at the 10th market percentile. In 2018, also we completed a structural adjustment transitioning employees on the 2017 survey to 15 percentile. And actually, we were thinking we were 20% on the other 20 to 25 percentile based on the 2017 study. So we now have a 2023 study that will be finalized by the end of this month, and we wanted to bring that up and give you an idea of what that looks like, because it's also really indicating the difficulties that we're having, in again, retaining personnel, attracting personnel, and all of that. So although we're thinking we're in the 20-25% percentile, I think Tricia will show us that we are now substantially below that. So Trish, can you take?
Yeah, absolutely. So Joyce, could you go back one slide? So here you could see the 2017 regression. This should be familiar to you all. We looked at this in 2018, except for Commissioner Martinez, and I'm not sure about Commissioner Limtiaco. So this is prior to us moving. So when we, as you can see with if you can see the line, the red line indicates the 5th percentile. And the problem before us in 2017 was approximately half of our employees were below the 5th percentile, some significantly, and then we had some employees above the 5th percentile. So the first action that the board took back then is we did a little bit of a true-up. And so we did that in a two-phased approach. At that point, we had two groups of employees: CTP, Certified Technical Professionals, and non-CTP. And so, with the recommendation of Mr. Cyril, our consultant, we did go through retraining, and we performed the board suggested that all employees become CTP. So that was one, and that allowed us the ability to transition and move everybody closer together. So Joyce, could you please go to next slide? So this is the initial draft 2023 regression chart. So this shows where we are today in the 2023 market. And so as you can see, the red dots are a little closer together. So we've solved that issue. Unfortunately, and despite our efforts in using a PFP and our 2017-2018 efforts to move up, to transition to the market, we're back down to the 5th percentile and below. So we see this, and we did, we're going to have Mr. Cyril come. We're looking at at all of the data now, but we wanted to really give the CCU some advance notice of where we are and what we're looking at, because this is very concerning, especially in today's market. So next slide, please.
Real quick.
Sir.
Can you chart Gulf Guam for us? How do we compare to everybody else?
So I do.
That we're responsible for what's happening today. And I sit there.
So we're.
Show us really where Gulf Guam is, and give us line agencies versus the autonomous agencies.
Okay, we won't be able to get down to the detail because we don't have that data to us readily available the way we look at it. So if you make Commissioner, I'm going to address the 22% potential pay raise in a couple of slides. Okay. So next slide.
But you can do something by precisions, right?
Yeah. So I'll show you a sample.
Our best estimate as we look at it now.
Right. So, I want to be sure, we want to be sure that the commission understands that we are not saying that we are we are not competitive. We are competitive, however, that competitive edge has been eroding. So you see that, and the numbers don't lie. So our competitive market position has been eroding, and we see that in some difficulty we have in some portions of recruiting and some portions of retention. So this has not happened just recently, but it's been happening over the course of several years, particularly initially and particularly in our IT and engineering sections. So early on, and you're all aware, especially in our IT sections, as cybersecurity becomes more and more prevalent, the need for cybersecurity professionals has increased. And with IT in particular, the certification process and the ability to keep current is highly desirable. And so we see that although we have certain IT professionals, whether they be at a supervisory management level or even down to entry level, at what we believed was the 20th percentile of the 2017 market, we need to be more competitive there. So we've lost several really good employees to local markets. They're not moving off island. And so this is a prime example of how, folks like NAFAC could really steal our employees away. The other area that we started to see is in engineering. So we saw that early on, and we're seeing that now, especially that the military buildup is really in full swing. So NAFAC has said it. They need more engineers, and we all know that we have a huge pool of very good professional engineers and also seasoned engineers without their PEs, and they are being lured away. More recently, we have, as you know, we have other companies like United looking to move people off island and giving them very big bonuses. So I say that not because we share a lot of positions with United, but because it really is an employee market. So we have seen at least 3 employees, whether they're contract or full-time, leave GPA in the last couple of months to join United. So we really have to consider what is the best path forward. So with some of the challenges and the factors, you can see the high retirement eligibility. So we're still faced with that, and we've been putting in training and succession plans. But when we have already 50% of our workforce ready to leave, this means that all of the factors I've just mentioned adds an additional stress to our employee pool. The recurring factor that contributes to this problem is that we have not made a concerted effort to keep up with the market. In my opinion, and in John Ray's opinion, from an HR standpoint, using the PFP process, the pay for performance, is not it's not a substitute for structural adjustments if we want to stay competitive. And so that's something that we need to look at. Again, looking at what we did in 2007, 2008, going 10 years forward in 2017, 2018, and now 5-6 years, we see the trend and we see what we need to do. So the solutions that that we put before the board was to beef up our training programs, and we've done that, and we have really excellent training programs. Our GDOL apprenticeship program, especially for our line workers, our operations folks, that is highly sought after. We may have 20 openings and we'll have over 300 applicants. Our attrition rate for those programs are very low, and we do retain using the apprentice program. We've recently, as you approved, we've recently started in-house training programs. And so we're answering that call for instance, generation employees through our in-house training programs. And again, very, very successful, very low attrition rate, but yet those salaries, those are the folks that are being lured away by promises of 20,000 bonuses to move off island. Other training programs that have worked are our internship programs. We've expanded that. And this is especially for our technical and more professional white-collar jobs. So where we only had summer internship programs for engineers, we've expanded that. So we have basically a 3-cycle annual internship program, which includes post-internship. We're working with the University of Guam, with the Guam Community College, again, wildly successful. We're getting all kinds of calls on that. So the last box that you could see on your right is the competitive compensation. We have always prided ourselves on being the best and the most competitive. We started to see, Commissioner Santos, to get to your point, we started to see other autonomous agencies beat us, to be very plain with what we're seeing. So we see other autonomous agencies like the port, sometimes the airport, sometimes GCC and UOG, start to creep up into our competitive advantage area. And so we've been monitoring this. Now we see that they've been doing this, especially when they do their market updates and structural pay adjustment. And so although we don't have a full visibility on what their current percentile of the market is, we know that we are lagging. And I don't want to speak for GWA, but when we do our market studies, we do it at the same time. So GWA may be in the same position.
Tracy,
Next slide. Yes, sir.
just a real quick question. Are you planning to have a meeting where we can get an update from Alan Searle?
Yes,
And
sir. You'll
when
see
is
that. You'll
the
see that
timeframe?
in the next slide.
Oh, okay.
Or a couple
Sorry,
slides
sorry.
down, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so we're asking the CCU to start to consider to reframe our strategic goals. So in 2007, 2008, the CCU passed a resolution stating that the goal for the utility would be to reach the 50th percentile of whatever the current market was. And so that was a tiered step plan, and I believe that we were supposed to get that done in 5 years. So we have not yet even gotten past the 20th market percentile. So we're asking to consider our proposed compensation and strategy goals. One is to determine what the base salary target really is. And so Alan Searle in 2018 came before the board, and he suggested to the board that you have at least a two-tier target, one for all employees with the exception of senior management, and one for senior management. And so in his presentation in 2018, he presented to the board a 50th percentile, keep that, and then a 70th percentile goal for senior management. And that was carefully considered based on the recruitment effort and the retention efforts. So you don't have 4 general managers, you have 1. And so these are, that was the thinking. Is it's very hard when you finally have someone leave, considering especially our 50 plus percentage, 50% or more of our workforce is eligible for retirement. So here we added another consideration for you, which is a 65th percentile target. And that's really going to be tied to critical position options for the GM, and that will address some of the issues that I spoke about earlier. For instance, in IT, in SCADA, again, that's like a cyber. It's huge for cybersecurity. Sometimes the engineers. So this helps us address the market concerns. Next slide. So when we looked at the base salary regression, you'll see on your left side, that's the current base salary regression. And you may be wondering, why are there some outliers at the very bottom? And you can see what this tells us, those are the outliers that are circled in green. What this tells us is that there are employees here with high job evaluation points. So these are employees that have a great deal of responsibility, discretion. You really need to be qualified to be in these positions. Although the salary range is high, you could see that compared to the market, these employees are below the 5th percentile. So we're always looking at the outliers. And I have to say, just disclosure, this is not self-serving. I'm part of those dots, but it's not about me. We're looking at the analysis. So when we look to find out what positions are the outliers, you could see that this is executive management. And so herein lies also an issue that I feel comfortable presenting to the board. When we look at our 6 executive staff, and so that's the GM, the 3 AGMs, the attorney, and the CFO. Of the 6 currently, and our AGMO is still on the payroll, she's technically on leave, 3 are eligible to retire. So that's, again, 50%, right? You see these numbers. If we have 1 who has already indicated her intent to retire and will retire, and so that leaves 2. And so when we're looking at what the relevancy and the concern is when you start recruiting, what number are you going to use? Who are you going to recruit from? If you put out the offer, who will answer? And so we have to really consider this. Again, we're not asking for any decision now. I just want to put this out there. This is just from a straight human resource consideration. Next slide.
I have a question on this slide.
Yes, sir.
The red line is which line? The fifth
The 5th
percentile is
percentile.
Just below the 5th.
What?
See the black one there is the 5th
Yep.
on the top, and then the red is
The red is the actual GPA
yeah,
actual.
it's the normalized actual, no, or the average, or what they call it.
Right, and then on the right side is just a trend line.
That's various positions within G points.
Yeah, all the different is.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So all these positions are under the 5th percentile, based on the revised analysis that our
The majority.
Going to
or
23.
more, yeah.
Right, and one of the reasons why you see such a marked difference is that generally these 6 positions do not follow the annual PFPs, and so that's again highlighting not necessarily wholesale, but our sister agency doesn't follow that. So most of the executive management does follow the PFP schedule, but not here. So again, even if we did a 2% PFP participation, you would probably still see the lag, but it wouldn't be as great. Okay, next slide.
Tracy,
Yes, sir.
when you hear Gulf Guam talking about they haven't done a pay adjustment for 10 years, where are we at?
Our last pay adjustment was in 2018. That's a structural pay adjustment.
That's the moving to the next percentile.
Right.
That's the last time.
Right.
Yeah, and Tracy's right, because I remember the resolution. I wasn't here when that resolution was passed, adopted.
The first one,
The
sir?
very first resolution said that they wanted to make a movement to the 50th percentile of that group within 5 years.
And that's what we've been, you're correct, Mr.
But
Chair.
we never got there.
Yeah,
couldn't.
we moved to the 25th,
We moved to the 20th, sir, in 2018.
2018, but then knowing this budget year, in budget year 2023, John? To go to 25? But we haven't, so, but the 25 now is even, is not,
Go back to the previous slide. Let's walk down those strategic goals one by one. No, just, yeah,
The other,
There,
that was,
please.
no,
faster. There,
That one.
stop. So your target, start with number one. Where do you want to start there? We're now at 5, right? What we're saying, based on your analysis, we're at the 5th percentile.
Correct. And so
where
the
so?
goal for the CCU, again, to
No,
restate,
not our goal. What are you telling us?
where your recommendation is.
our recommendation is to actually move to what Alan Searle had said. Now, the CCU has a huge role in this. CCU has
Oh,
to
yeah.
approve
No,
it.
we're the deciders.
So-
We know
I'm
that.
saying, so from 5 to 50 or 5 to...
And that is an excellent question, and I want to, with all my heart, want to recommend something, but I'm not going to do that without seeing the final numbers from Alan Searle.
Okay.
So again, this is a
We're not-
preview.
So today, you're not prepared to tell us financially what...
no, because secondly, once we total these numbers, we're gonna look at the budget and how
Yeah,
we
of
can
course,
afford.
yeah.
I'm not
So
even
that's
there
why,
yet.
How much money?
so that's why we're not, what we're showing to you is the results of the preliminary results of the survey. And what,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how it's not achieving the objectives that was set up, no?
Yeah,
And
because
so,
we didn't
but
follow.
before we can bring it to you, we will work the numbers also and have some answers for you, no? Because we can
Understood, yeah, understood.
Commissioner Santos, when we received this information, we thought that we were shocked, and we wanted to make sure that we shared the initial information with the
Stop
CCU
us
and
now
not
before we really get to the real show.
and not wait and not wait. So we
No,
wanted to.
Tracy, I'm with you. I just want to walk through your strategic goals.
So
The market
here's
study is done, right? I mean, for the most part, he's doing one, right?
we get the final at the end of this month.
Okay.
So to answer your
Yeah.
previous question, here it is with this table.
Yeah, I
So-
don't want to get there yet. Let's talk all you're saying some goals, right? I like that.
So-
when you talk to us about structural adjustments, what specific one are you looking at?
Okay,
This?
so I want to
Yeah.
illustrate and answer your question. So the proposed strategic goals 2 and 3 is to conduct market studies every 2 years. As you see, we waited first 10 years, and then we waited 5 years. So we do need to get back into a regular schedule, depending on what the CCU agrees our strategic goals should be. And tied with the second, and it's highly dependent on what the market comes back to. We really need to look at what the market study says, the results, and figure out what are the structural pay adjustments. Current status quo approach is not working, right? So and it all depends. Maybe it is working, right? It depends on whether or not we need to retain our employees. So to answer your question, and I understand that these numbers are hard to see, and maybe you could see it in person, but Commissioner Santos had asked early on, now that Gov Guam is considering a 22% pay increase, how would that impact our current employees? And so we took a sampling, and we wanted to make it as fair as possible. We took samplings of cashiers, of accountants, of warehouse staff, and some procurement folks, right? So these are positions that you see across Gov Guam. And when you're looking at there, you could, at the table I have before you, you could see that I took from DOE and DOA. So the positions for GPA is, you could see the difference in titles. We tried to do like. The pay scales are different because we do have a different pay scale than Gov Guam. It is not the HAY plan. So the pay scales are different. Took the annual salaries, gave you the current, and I did the 2 what-if scenarios. So scenario 1 is for the GovGuam positions, not GPA. What would be the result of a $22,000 pay raise? And so this is not taking into account benefits or anything else.
22% or?
Oh, sorry, what did I say? Dollars?
22,000?
Oh, sorry,
22%.
wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, 22%. Thank you for the correction. So there you could see what it would be. Now, what GPA does is if we just do what we normally do, which is our PFPs, our pay for performance, and tied to our annual evaluations, generally the average is 2%. I added here 3%, so 1% difference. And what the results were is that we would be below GovGuam in this scenario, that they give 22% raise in our cashiering positions and in our warehouse and storekeeping positions. Where we would be above, but slightly, is our accounting positions and our buyer positions, our procurement positions. But when you really look at those numbers, for instance, with procurement, which as you know is a hot topic in today's news, when you look at that, we no longer have a real edge. So, that's again something that we have to consider. So not having all the information that you asked for, Commissioner Sanchez, does that answer
No,
or address your question?
This is a good start, Tracy, but the other fair comparison for us really is, you need to compare us to Guam Airport and the port. Because we're not bound by Guam per se, right? I mean, maybe that's the data that you need to plug into this and say, and then maybe the question I need to ask is, who are we losing people to, other than NAFTA? Are they jumping to, I don't hear people wanting to go work at port or Guam Airport.
Yeah, what we're seeing a lot of is some people are taking retirement as soon as they are eligible so that they can draw on their retirement and go work in various areas. And it's not necessarily that it's more lucrative, it's just that a salary that was a $30,000 job is now a $50,000 job. So they leave us sooner than we anticipate. And so that's what we're seeing.
I saw it at GDOE when I sat there, and what we thought was going to be an out-migration of teachers, and now that they got 20% increase, nobody's moving. They can stick it out. Of course, the administrators, but again, if you can plug in the additional data we're going to need when
We will try. We will extrapolate that from various staffing patterns.
Yeah, that's obviously the point, but can I ask the question, if HR is doing what or trending what it is there anything we can do in the benefit side as opposed to giving them an increase? And I've always wanted to advocate for this is why you hear me say we got to pull away from GovLong Group Health and do our own thing, right? Plus, we got to also break away from the way we contribute for health insurance. Right? If we have the flexibility to do it our own way, that might be the other added benefit of coming to work for us, because we're not going to be bound. If we came to you in the private sector where Mike and I work and say, we need you, we'll offer you full medical and dental for your family. All of a sudden you got a $20,000 raise on a tax-free benefit. So I would like you guys to think along those lines to see what other competitive advantages do we or can we employ from the HR side that are not just bound by salary. I mean, you hear it all the time. It's not just the pay. I mean, GPA and GWA are great places to work. We know that. And what is the value for that?
And that's exactly what I'm asking you to consider.
No. I mean, go do
You
the
need to
study.
tell us.
Go do the study and tell us what
we'll-
is it that we need as the CCU to make our employees want to stay here, other than telling us we need a 22% raise.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm asking.
No.
I just want to be clear.
That's what we're facing today, guys.
Okay, I'm just.
Everybody thinks, hey, GovBong just got a 22%. Why not us?
Joyce, can you?
Right? I mean, that's the reality we're facing.
Yeah, but if, whether we pay it in salary or benefits, it's still a cost though, right?
Yeah.
That's the real number,
Yeah.
Commissioner Jocko. That's the different shock we're gonna get, right? Because,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you can
So
sit here.
Commissioner
and
Santos,
you don't-
one thing to look at, I mean, besides the study, if you recall though, for the health insurance, in order for us to change it, we would need legislation.
Oh, I agree, and that's why
If you recall our previous issues. with that.
when the whole discussion, like, just, they wanna go to self-insurance. I said, you know what, that's the avenue maybe that we need. I was chatting with Chris Godassi, my other healthcare expert, and I said, in the real world that exists for self-insurance, that's our money. I'm sorry, that's the CCU's premium money. It doesn't belong to GovGuam. It belongs here. So that means we can sit here and say, you know what, it's $4 million. I'm going to totally redesign our health benefits, and we need to give our employees a better health benefit. And one of the ways we do it in the other real world is you offer them better medical and dental benefits, and you contribute more. I mean, that's just the competitive advantage that we need to do to disrupt. I agree, it's no more status quo. It's not working. It's not
Right.
obvious.
Okay.
So we have two more issues. Sorry.
I think we also will take a look at retirement because I can stay unequivocally now that really ever since the DB plan went away,
Yeah.
our competitive edge went away because we have we don't have a very good retirement plan at this point, no?
Right.
To retain the.
Okay.
So we had, like for example, POS, no, just left us PE and everything for that reason, plus the COLA, plus the
She went to
commissary
NAFTA.
privileges and all of
Correct.
that.
Right.
So we have to look at all potential and just think out of the box and see whether anything there can come up with us. No?
But it's not truly a retirement, right? They're retiring from GovGuam, right? They're still gonna get the benefits, but then they go into the private sector, right? And they're earning two incomes, right? So when you said that, the 20% increase, nobody's leaving now, right? Because 5 years, based on the DB plan, their average 5 years, they may not be leaving now, but in 5 years after they've got that average up, they're
Then
gonna
they're
have
leaving.
that same
Well,
mindset.
Commissioner Limtiaco, I didn't want to have to get into the weeds, but now that you brought it up. So we have the DB, right? So as you recall with, when we look at our retirement plans, the majority of the folks that are eligible to retire, these are the DB plans. And so the people who are leaving, who are considering leaving, are those that have not yet vested enough years under either the DC or the DB 175, and it may be more advantageous for them to continue and start a new career somewhere else and vest somewhere else and still come back for the GovGuam retirement money when they reach retirement age. And that is a whole other conversation.
Then addition to that is the young engineers and everyone that we're training today, no? If we don't have
Reason to keep them there.
the reason to keep them, we're just a training ground because we have quite a few now. Okay, they're getting to their second, 30-year experience, no?
Well, we
And
have
then
a
we're
reason
gonna
to keep
require
them.
them to get their PE, give them an incentive to do that, but then and stuff. So how do we retain that? Because we already recognize that there is that 50 to 60% challenge, no? And there's that much, but it's the bringing on of everybody else. But if you keep losing them before you can, fuel up the coffer at least halfway, or then it becomes an issue. So anyway, it's good points of discussion now.
One question from Commissioner Martinez.
So Tracy, what is GIA and the port, at what percentile are they at now?
I'm not sure about GIAA. I do believe, based on our discussions with Alan Searle, that he just completed their market study. So I would venture to guess, Commissioner, that they're having the same discussions we are.
Yeah,
They're probably
I'm
just a
sure.
month ahead of us. With the port, I believe that they had a more recent market study, and they are well into, I believe, the 25th percentile. So you'll get our comparison,
And I
Commissioner
think the
Sanchez, and don't
airport
be
is working
surprised.
toward that,
Yeah,
too.
it's true. So
Francis
just
is very real about saying we should focus with just us here. Simply, we're autonomous and
So the other one, Fusilado, you know, how long ago it was where GovCon did the buyout?
Do you guys remember?
Was it 24?
Yeah, 1999, 2000, yeah.
So,
Does anyone want to venture into that road and figure out what it's going to cost us on our DV employees?
I don't know if that's the answer though, because that,
No,
you would just
I-
lose them that much sooner, right? Let's say
I'm just saying, you know, we toss it out there,
yeah,
right? Because
it might
the
be
other-
cheaper, right?
Yeah, the other scary one, which obviously we don't want to go into, is the way I'm sorry, GDOE and basically the hospital. You ask the teachers to retire, then you come back and,
Rehire them, yeah.
you know, I mean, that logic doesn't make sense to me, but, okay, but, you know, I don't know if that's the solution. I mean,
That may inevitably have to be a part of the solution because
You might as well put
but
it
we're
on the
not,
table.
we're not there yet, but again, there is a substantial amount that, because we are already at, I mean, remember, we asked 494, right? We're still hovering around the
I think the max was 417.
talking about FTE.
yeah, still hovering around 420, and of course, some of the apprentices are gonna start filling out that FTE, but again,
Yeah, they're not coming back in droves for teachers, right? Or for that matter, nurses too. I don't see them, you know. I think what's happening, at least in the nurses that I'm more familiar with, they'll retire from GovCom and then want to go work in the private sector so they can start earning their Medicare side.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, trying to, so I just, again, you know, those are all these qualified positions, which we are trying to address, right? We're trying to figure out ways to.
And there
retain
still
and-
is the phenomenon of the post-COVID issue where people are just stopping and they're not progressing in their careers and they're doing something completely different.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chairman.
Okay. I just have a couple of questions. I seem to remember once upon a time, we compared some of our engineers to NAFAC.
Yes, we're preparing that.
Okay,
Yes.
because, you know, the problem with GovGuam, the way they handle pay is it goes in fits and starts. It's like you know, they go way forward and then they stay there for a long time and then they jump way forward again. It's like the pressure's building, and then when the pressure gets there, then they give a big increase. I think where we made a mistake is we should have been increasing to the next percentile every year, or, you know, there should have been a methodical increase in because the pay for performance is only, don't get me wrong, pay for performance is another version of increments. That's all it evolved into. So what you need is to move them forward. I would like to see how we stack up with like NAFAC, you know, because I like this comparison. For me, it's more the accountants, you know, that's where I zone in on, because, you know, everybody wants to talk about everybody, but when you look at the accountants, even with the DOA Accountant 1, they're with a 22% increase, they go to the 45,000, but our accountants are already at about 51,000. And although we're talking about the 51,000, what is the outside market pay? And that's why I'm saying, where is that 51,000? Is that at the 20th percentile? Or, you understand what I'm saying? So that if it was at the 25th, and that was at 2017 pay scale, right? The 25. So, you know, we need to figure out that portion of it. And I'd like to see that compared to the military pay rates. So if we can, they're not going to gel all the way.
What we're seeing generally, just a preview for military pay local, is that they have a greater pay range. So ours is a little tighter.
Well, yeah, no, the difference with them is they print money.
Money.
And
then
we
the
don't,
more
so.
significant difference is what Commissioner Sanchez had mentioned, it's the benefits. So when they're off the bat offering 12% COLA and we offer 0, how do you compete with that benefit?
No.
If you
I
don't
get
build it in.
all. They get to shop at the exchange maybe. So, you know, those are all the little benefits. But I'm just saying that if we're serious about this, we need to get serious about really making standard movements every set period of time, whether we say 2 years, 3 years, 1 year. There has to be consistent movement in the pay. That's how you keep the employees, because they see consistent movement. You know, so everybody now who is an accountant at VOA is going to say, okay, I'm going to stick it out 3 more years. If I have a DB plan, I stick it out 3 more years to get my high 3, and then I'll retire.
You're 100%
And
right.
in 3 years, unless they offer another 22% increase, they're not staying around. They have to offer another 22% increase. I don't think people understand that if you want to keep them, you have to offer another 22% increase.
Right.
But,
You're right.
but to me, it's one of, the other side of this, John, is to really evaluate our need for people, because we've been very successful about these private-public partnerships, and that has taken some of this drama out, you know. The solar farms are really generators too. So, you know, when you look at the cost to produce a kilowatt hour, outsourcing that takes the headache away from our side.
Yeah.
Because we're still getting the service. Now, you know, a solar farm is not a firm generator. So I get that. There's these anomalies. But at the same time, that's where we're looking at. We're outsourcing things. The more you outsource things that are good to outsource, some things you don't want to outsource.
Yeah.
You know, like I would never outsource, for example, I wanted 2 more comments. I would never outsource PSCC. You need to control that, okay? But the other thing is, and I just lost my train of thought. This really does have an effect on us, because I remember back, this is about 8 years ago. John, I don't know if you remember, we were trying to boost the number of people in PSCC, and we had attracted some people in the mainland
Offline.
who were going to come back, who are from Guam, and we were trying to attract them to come back. They were retiring from there. And the idea was to bring them back and make them be the trainers for the younger group that are coming up for the remainder of the life. You know, in other words, these are retired people. You're not looking at them for another 20 years, but you're looking at them 5 to 10 years. They could do a lot of training, but we couldn't give them enough money.
Yep.
So they refused to come.
And then we had to struggle, and we've
Then-
trained
well,
a lot, and we're getting to that
no,
point
that
again.
causes you problems, because then you have to do this training program, and
Yep.
it's a lot harder. If you had been able to, you and I talked, if you had been able to get those, I think 3 or 4 people to come over, then you would have had your mentors, you know, who could bring the people up faster.
But that's
So,
kind of
no,
what
so
we're-
it has a real impact. That's my only comment, John. It has a real impact on what you
agree,
need.
Mr. Chair. I agree, Mr. Chair, and again, we're gonna have to make some recommendations to try and, you know, I mean, we've been saying the next few years is critical for us. Now, we can check what the market does without the generation, no?
Yeah.
Because the generation in 2 or 3 years, all the employees will still be working with us, but now that group won't be the certain, I mean, where the FTEs will be down by 30, but then there are still other generation plans that we have, but not steam plans, so we can take that out of the equation and see how
Yeah.
that looks.
So if
So-
you recall, Chairman, we did a staffing study years ago, and so it's time for another staffing study, and I think that the timing is very appropriate. As you know, you have all supported and approved a lot of programs and initiatives that help us transition. And it's not, it's to our clean energy plan, it's applying technology. As we look forward to the staffing study, what a lot of HR has been doing is looking at position descriptions. That has changed. And so this is not happening just at GPA, it's happening throughout the industry. The advent and the incorporation of technology is good in some ways where we can reduce our staff, and in others we have to actually skill up. And we may have to increase in certain areas such as IT, certain engineering. And then there are emerging areas for job positions that we do not yet have.
Yeah, no, I'm
So
not
there's
questioning
a-
that. I understand all of that, Tracy. Commissioner Mchako, you had a question?
I did.
Or a comment?
I do. So if we already kind of know where Alan's going with it, it seems as though we have everything we need to determine the financial impact at 50 percentile.
Not quite yet. So he's doing the slotting right now, and so that's why I was not able to answer Commissioner Santos's question.
You mean you don't have the salary ranges at 50 percentile from Alan?
We have the salary ranges, but what Alan is doing is it's a complicated type of formula, and it takes every single 418 positions we have today. And so he slots them, and and then we get a better and a more true number.
Well, all I know
Puts
is,
them in,
we
then we
look
can
forward
add
to
it all
him
up and
briefing us.
see the
You said,
of
when?
implementing, yeah.
So we want to see the information and see if we have any questions first. What we hope to do is target April.
Okay.
And at latest May, because we have some, we want to understand what our strategy is. If you don't mind, I just have a couple more slides to go.
Well, let me just remind you about one thing. A lot of the commissioners are going to be traveling in June for the
Gotcha.
conferences, so you need to make sure it happens prior to that. Okay,
got
just
it.
a comment. Commissioner Santos.
Or not? We're planning to tie this into our budget?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Once we get the numbers, and part of it is the slotting.
All I wanted to know.
Once
Yeah.
we get the slotting and that final number, which is probably, it could be in the next 2 or 3 weeks, then we can find out,
Yeah,
study
you can
how.
keep briefing us on it
Yeah, how we
until
can
you
get,
get to the point where you have a resolution. to
whether,
recommend.
how does it, is our base rate capable, first of all, to,
Yeah.
you know,
You have money.
Unless you
yeah,
Unless you have money.
plan to have a surplus in your general fund.
No.
no, I
Okay.
don't think.
I'm sorry. Okay.
So the pay for
Real quick,
performance,
go
Chairman,
ahead.
you had mentioned your thoughts on the pay for performance. Our suggestion is continue it. This really helps for us to identify talent. It helps with employee dialogue. We're looking at pay for performance, our evaluation forms that we have now in the process. We want it to be more active and not wait until the end of the year. So it's very important, especially when we look at generation, the generation of our current entering employees. This generation needs more feedback, they need more touch points. So we're looking at that, and we're trying to incorporate our technology there. Next slide, please. And so last is something that is new, critical positions. And so we've touched on what the federal government does, and this model of identifying critical positions is taken, or maybe some parts of it is modeled from the federal government. We need to identify those critical positions that we talk about, but we need to do it in a more formal way. And so we've been looking at different different approaches from federal, local, public utilities, private utilities, and just all around employers, as we start to see these hot markets. And the federal government says, here are the hot markets, and then we see it on Guam, whether it lags or not. We need to have the ability to act, just like all four of you have said, outside of just the typical government of Guam, which is either do nothing or reactive. So we want to be proactive here. We want to identify what we said here at the table. IT is hot. Certain areas in PSCC, like you said, sir, that's hot. It could be that that certain engineers are hot. Maybe it is it's professional engineers, those with certifications. We see this. So our position, our proposal, is to allow us to come up with a policy ahead of time. So to be proactive, to allow HR and the GM to sit down and talk about what the market outlook is annually, prior to the fiscal year, and give the GM the authority, if he needs, to adjust upward, not necessarily downward, certain areas so that we do not lose people. What we're trying to avoid is having people already decide that they're going to go, and these are critical positions, and so then we scramble. So we want to retain the employees. I think it was I can't remember. I'm sorry. One of the commissioners or the chairman had said, are we giving them a reason to stay? And so we need to really consider what is our approach to retainment. And so this is
Thank you
where
very
we're
much.
at there. Next slide, I think, which is my last one. The considerations here, this is my last slide, and this answers the chairman's question. So as you can see, the schedule here, end of March, we're expecting the full draft report from Alan. And then in April, we're looking at the formal presentations of his findings and recommendations to the CCU. That's going to incorporate our recommendations, not just our consultant. And just as a summary, we've made really great strides toward our consent decree projects, clean energy master plan, and then overall industry transformation. The creation and implementation of the initial CTP pay plan and transition boosted our ability to attract and retain top employees, but we need to do something to not lose this momentum, and we need to ensure proper succession to continue to address the planned and unplanned attrition that we face. So we need to restore our competitive edge, and we need some policies in place. We need your support for that. We need to understand the general framework, and really, we rely on the board to help us get there. And if this means that you have a lot to consider, maybe some hard decisions to make, but we really ask for your support here.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. John, any more questions? Or John, what's your next report, or is that it? Are you done?
I think we've been.
Very quickly.
John, quickly is so.
Okay. GM, in terms of the GM report, of course, the Cabras 1 and 2 are back operating. 8 and 9 are operating, except they will start now doing the regular maintenance that we had delayed for those 2 units. There is, can you do that? I just wanted to.
Where are we at on our power on the move? I got stuck in traffic last night.
We're down to our last last of what's here. I think one more down there they're gonna have to bring up, and then after that, at the end of the month, we're gonna have some more come in, and in April, and about in the middle of April.
By May, most should be done.
Yeah.
Second week of April.
Oh, great, even better.
All the major pieces of equipment will
Even
be
better.
here, and our.
I'll be honest, I've never. We're coming back from dinner and boy, that must be a really bad accident. Blue lights all over the place. Wait, the traffic's moving.
So that's the only time you got stuck in it in the last?
That's his first.
No, that's the first time.
That's his first
No
experience.
business going
Time in
on,
the
and I was going,
last-
I've
30
been lucky. I
days.
stayed away.
yeah, just don't go on the road. But yeah, we got stuck right in front of.
That's why I kept asking you.
Southbound?
Docomo.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, granted, it's moving. It's just I think it's just if you're driving and 3 miles away, you can see nothing but blue lights. And then you get up and close. And
Look for a way
No,
around.
it's- yeah.
Go swimming in the ocean.
So April will be a better month in terms of capacity because we're not doing any major overhaul. No.
Okay,
It's just the 2 or 3 day overhauls. Next. Well, one thing to notice though is that look at our demand. It is cooler. More people are saving. I think John will show you. It has in his financial report the average utilization by the residentials are going from 1,000 some to about 900 again. So again, price is very important, right? So next, the solar, yes, they've been selling consistently around 30 per month now because again, we're in that period of 31 cents LIAC. Next. Here, yeah, great. As you can see, we are coming down in fuel pricing. So John will also note that our under recovery has gone now from 32 to 27. We recovered 5 million in February, so just like as projected, if we continue on, we'll be doing that. If you notice here, this is the fuel that we used to buy. And that's usually at 90. We're still in the 100 because again, we're burning more expensive clean fuel, and so at least this is maybe at least we're getting towards at least it's still going down. Next, brown tree stakes. I mean, it may be a joke to a lot of people, but we're very serious. We have a DOI DOI right have their attention. They're working with us. All the snakes that we catch are put in a bag and given to the researchers to find out. If you wonder where the snakes may be, our map will show you exactly where. If you look at all the red spots, that's where all the major findings of snakes, and they could be just a transformer affecting 5 or 10 people to the main circuit, no, that goes up. But look at the red, see? The yellow is 1 to 4 outages. The red is about 14 to 21 outages. That gives you an indication in the area. So again, we are working with the USGS, no, to see how we can solve this. But again, it's been here for umpteen years, right? But we've been trying to live around it, more tree trimming, more everything. But again, the snakes are still creating. Next. We have a conference coming up. And it's a conference before the conference where we have a whole bunch of speakers really on our clean energy plan and where we're heading. And even from researchers from off island will be coming in. So please, we have the schedule given to you if you have time to fit into it. There are some opening ceremonies and stuff in the beginning, no? And so we have that. But again, it includes major laboratories that are involved with DOE that are working with us, no? Next. Customer engagement, we continue to do that. Especially again, you said train the kids, no, early on as to stuff. So that's being done. You know, and again, different programs continues for us. Next, I don't want to put. If you look at every month, the applications are about 300 to 400 for air conditioning and change out. And again, that's taking away from our revenue, but again, we're trying to get the customer at lower cost. Next. That's again all the information. New power plant. I'll just go to the pictures. We have the updates there. You can see the buildings are going up quickly. Next. The all that long 200-ton pieces of equipment that was laying down on the trailer are all standing up here now. See, that's the heat recovery boiler, one piece again, because you don't cut the piping, no. So there's 2 per unit, so there's 6 of them, no. And the last 2, I think the last one is down there to be brought up, no. Today. So again. You see here, two per unit. That's the boiler that will generate steam, that will run the steam turbine. Next. Gas turbine, no, they're already one set in. They'll be setting the other's foundation. The last one is coming in April. Actually, at the end of the month, I think, or the last combustion turbine coming in, they'll be setting that in place. Next. Tanks going out. This is the treated water. Next. This is the low sulfur, this is the concrete point for the steam turbine. Go ahead, next. Next. Here's your ultra low sulfur diesel. Again, 2 tanks, no? It's all welded by machine, no? Next. Go ahead. That's true. Treating all the different cooling towers for the evaporative cooling.
Cooling towers up already.
Yeah, switch yard. So now they're doing the switch yard here, and not only here, but they're starting also at the Harmon substation. On this are off island. They're getting ready to ship the turbine, condenser, other pieces that are getting ready to be shipped here. Again, this is the schedule, like it was mentioned. Mid in April or so, where most of this equipment will be here now for transport to Ukudu. Pipeline that continues. This may be we're still working on this one because this may be our critical path right now, because archaeological work has to be, and they're not a dime a dozen. They're even trying to bring them in from Hawaii, and they're not available. So everywhere that we have to dig, plus now we have to check for making sure that there's no unexploded bombs as we go along, because they did find one, no? So again, things like that. So this is the critical path. Now I think the getting the pipeline done so we can deliver that hill next. All the others, it's just we are our what you call it, energy is coming lower. It has been a lot more rain than usual, but anyway, John's financial highlight.
A lot of our energy consumption is based on weather. So in the month of February, it's very comparable to last year temperature. However, we had more rain. So the average consumption of the consumer was less than last year. But if you compare it to the pandemic, before the pandemic, it's still higher. So the average consumption for February per residential customer is about 818 kilowatt hours. We looked at the hotels. The arrival rate has improved dramatically compared to last year, but during the peak, like 2019 or 2018, is about 50%. And we didn't get the occupancy rate for hotels. It's not up yet, but if you look at last quarter, from October to December, it was close to 60%. Year before that was only like 45, 6%.
It came as low as 39%, so we're starting to rebound at least, no? 60 now.
Yes. Because of the military exercise that happened in February, we think the occupancy rate probably has gone up significantly. If you look at the following slide, regarding the base revenue, our actual was about $11.6 million, which is very comparable to prior year of $11.8 million. Kilowatt sales is pretty much exactly the same. February was 116,000 megawatt hours. In terms of fuel revenues, LEAG revenue is about $35 million. What we're projecting is that the under recovery should be very minimal by end of May, or pretty much gone down.
When you say minimal, are you saying what are you projecting that number to be at under recovery?
By May should be close to zero.
Zero.
End of May.
End of May. And so when is the next LEAC recommendation then? Or is
Well, it's,
we already is that
no, August. August 1st is the next beginning of the 6-month LEAC period. This current LEAC period ends on July 31st.
But we file by June 15th.
File by June.
But we file in June.
We've generally done the end of May meeting.
But if we're gonna be at zero by May, then we're gonna have an over recovery, right?
Yes. So we're projecting to have an over recovery sooner because the oil price has been dropping due to fear of recession, and also the high interest rate and the demand's not there. So we're thinking of coming back probably next month to see. We're doing analysis what kind of rate we should be proposing. We probably do intermediate rate adjustment.
An interim rate adjustment.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I think we're gonna need it. We should really look at that and prepare for it.
Yeah, they recognized, I think, when we set this rate, we recognized that you're going to start recovering.
Yes.
And I remember correctly, if I remember correctly, it was like around the April timeframe.
Yes.
May,
Yes.
you would figure out just how close you're going to come to that.
Yes.
Because you're projected under recovery in August and July 31st. I think it was like 5 million, 6 million, 8 million?
Yeah.
Around 8 million?
Yes.
But you could also wipe it out, so.
Yeah. It seems like it's gonna be wiped out sooner.
Well, then what you do is you slow down, you ratchet it down a little bit.
Yes.
So that you'll still have an under recovery,
Yes.
but just not a tolerable one.
So actually, we need to look at, remember, this is just February,
Yeah,
so we're almost the end of March, so we'll look at that and then look what we may be able to project in the April. We'll give the mission update in April.
Yeah.
So yeah, that perhaps if prices are still going down or at least stabilized, then instead of projecting for over recovery and overdoing we can make a recommendation earlier.
Yeah.
But right now, we need at least the next month or so to,
Just though, what is the number now? What is our current under recovery number balance?
Current under recovery is $27 million.
Still, as of today, it's still
Yes.
no,
27.
ending,
End of February.
ending
Yeah, no, I
February.
just meant, so we're 23 days into March. Roughly what's the number?
We're projecting by end of March, probably a little bit over $20 million.
Commissioner
Still a big
Santos.
number.
Just
Yeah,
curious,
yeah,
John,
no,
what in your financial side is a manageable amount? I mean, I know it's a number, but, because we know by what we do is we're foregoing projects.
Yes.
So, other than the operation side, in your financial side, 10 million, 5 million?
When they first projected this, they said there should be no more than 2 million. But that's a really,
2 million?
yeah, it should be no over than 2 million. Actually, that's more of an ideal number.
Well, no, in the old days, okay, this is several years back, 2 million was a good number. Then we had the war in Ukraine and a whole bunch of other things went crazy. Plus, we went to burning 0.2% RFO. So we're burning the most expensive fuel you could get. It has no correlation to the WTI or Brent. It has correlation with diesel,
Yes.
the refined cost. So,
The correlation is dependent on where we are in the dollars per barrel. Because if we're down at the $80 per barrel, therefore we can, right?
Well,
We have
no,
in
it's,
our working
yeah.
capital, when we're at 120 and then all of a sudden Ukraine or somebody comes in and it hits that way, we have enough working capital to buy the next shipment of fuel, no?
yes, yes.
So that's why,
So,
Yeah.
anyway, just real quick, just so we understand, the February, March, April is the first 3 months of the 6-month period.
Yes.
So when you get to the end of March, you complete your numbers for March, you have a
Yes.
better projection for April, and that's when you start to talk to the PUC, right? So in April, you'll start to talk to Mr. Hareki and give him some of your data,
Yes.
and they'll start considering, so that at the end of April, in our April meeting, if we think that we might want to recommend something, at that point, we could recommend a mid-term correction,
Yes.
okay? Just for the information of the CCU members.
Yep.
That's the,
thanks,
time.
right? Yeah.
okay, Commissioner Chaco.
Yeah, but when we talk about this manageable number, right, the manageable under recovery number is really just the timing of when we adjust the LEACs, any unforeseen rise or falls of the forecasted cost rate. Ultimately, it should be zero.
The goal
right,
is zero.
in order to
Yeah,
free up
you're
your cash
correct.
flow.
Yeah, the goal
Right,
is zero.
but because it has a cash flow implication on you when you have to purchase fuel, right? So.
And a lot of the impact is Ms. Benevenza mentioned is due to Ukraine war, and also during the winter when they cut off LNG supply from Russia.
Mhm.
When that happened, they had to move to diesel. So all the diesels was being used to power plant,
Yeah,
energy.
and that affected us. We're refined. Both the products that you're now burning are refined products.
So
They're
the
not-
crack spread between like WTI or Brent was like
Big
crazy.
spread.
So that has been shrinking lately.
Yeah.
So that's what's helping us.
Okay.
Cash flow wise, the issue.
Yeah, we have to have the cash to be able to,
Cash on demand, right?
Yes.
Ship lands.
yep, they won't ship the oil unless they have the cash, so, and so again, we were able to survive, with that, right? We were able to, step in the rate increases. So now we're trying to bring that all back to be in a better position. 'cause
Well, let's hope your numbers
at 100,
continue to be good.
At $120 per barrel now, if it starts rising to 150, that oil now is 30, 40, 50 million a shot.
Yeah.
So we have to be replenish that working capital. Otherwise, we'll be running to emergency rate impact, a rate increase in the LEAC. No?
Yeah.
But
We get it, John.
we'll try and give a better idea,
Oh,
Mr.
no,
Chair.
by the
next
end of
month. Yeah.
April, you should have a better number.
Yes.
That will give you a number you can fairly feel confident in for at the end of April, and there you make a recommendation to us and recommendation to PUC.
Yes.
Let's keep our fingers crossed that we can do some relief,
Yes.
you know. Any relief would be good for our customers out there.
I just don't want to get to I don't want to get into the position where we have a substantial over recovery.
Oh, no,
Just fodder, you know.
No,
for-
no.
We don't want to, yes.
And then we give out raises, we're like, oh, no, it's.
No. That's, no. Okay, so, anything else, John?
Yes, O&M.
What's your debt service coverage?
Yes,
That's
O&M
always
is about
important.
5.5. Our debt service coverage is about 1.59, so we're exceeding the debt service coverage.
Okay.
As mentioned earlier, under recovery is 27 million of February.
And what, real quick, John, what is your, how are you projecting your base rate revenues? Are you still on point?
Yes, we're, because of the LEAC rate is kind of high at 32 cents, 31. The people has been cutting back.
Sure, so people are
yes,
cutting their consumption, but
Yes.
your projections are usually, what, if I try to remember correctly, your base rate revenue was like 150? Or
Yes.
one,
Yeah, our budgeted base rates revenue was about 160.
160, okay.
Yeah, about 160.
So what are you running at?
We're probably going close to probably 160.
Okay, so your projections are still there
Yeah.
for your
So our
base rate revenue?
revenues are about there and our expenses are below.
Yeah, because
So
you're hoarding cash. You're
Yeah.
keeping cash for your oil shipment. Got it, John,
Yeah,
got
we're
it,
just getting cash and just paying oil.
got it. No.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
And all the our energy sales is really dependent on weather.
Yeah.
The last quarter has been cooler and been more rains, but we're predicting by summer, because it's much cooler right now, the summer will be much hotter
Yeah.
and drier.
Well, we'll
So-
see. This is I don't know, usually, I remember farmers and stuff, you know, this seems to be a wetter, dry season.
Okay, yeah.
So when you have a wetter, dry season, that's usually better.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But, because when you have a really dry season, oh my God, it
I see.
can get really hot.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure. Commissioner
Um,
Menchaca.
I know we haven't talked about this. I know we see the pictures of the pipelines being completed, but where are we on the LNG study and feasibility? Have we even working on that yet, or is that on the back?
No, we have the quote to do that. I'm just not ready to bring it out right now
Mm-hmm.
because again, I'm trying to get this power plant
Yeah.
moving and
Yeah.
done, and then
But I see the two pipelines.
and then the
so-
cash flow
Yeah.
coming back, and then I can, because that's like $1 million to study
Yeah.
re-update the study.
But you're
So
putting the
maybe
pipelines in.
towards the end of the year, we'll
Yeah.
start that study. And that's to update the LNG.
Yeah.
But the plan really, if you look, that's still the goal, because there is like a $30 per barrel
Delta.
delta.
Mhm.
And that's how we're gonna get to the 12 cents a kilowatt hour. No?
That 30 is just product cost, though, right? We just have to factor in all the development costs and to get that
That's-
LNG to.
Yeah, but still, the product costs, the shipping, the infrastructure, and everything could be around $12 a million BTU
Mm.
and stuff. So, and again, the differential of 30, there's for every $30 a barrel, that's 5 million. Yeah. But no, that $30 a barrel is net, I think.
Oh, it's net. Mm. Okay. That's a
Okay.
big deal.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's net.
Okay.
After you put in all that infrastructure,
Yeah.
and it's the thoroughfare net to the consumer. big amount.
Okay, anything else? Are we done?
That's all I have for now, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Anything?
okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We're adjourned. 3 aye votes.